Today's topic is project plan and governance. As the slide states, we are going to talk about that how do we define success for any implementation when we conduct that for either SAP Hybris or any other project we are talking about. So today, what you are going to learn, let me give five key takeaways and the learning topics which I'm going to focus today. And the first way I see it that you are going to see and take control of your SAP Hybris project right from the day one and till it goes live. Is point number two, that you would be able to avoid any make of the risky speculation about your business objectives. A lot of time that happens, during the course of when we start gathering the requirements, and we want to ensure that we catch on to the highest priority ones, which aligns very well with our stakeholders as well as to our corporate objectives. Point number three, what you're going to learn is how to set measurable goals and monitor them on a consistent basis, because that's where we ensure that all the objectives which was very clarified during the gathering, we are ensuring that we have some KPIs defined for those requirements, and we gather them on a consistent basis. Point number four is, since we are talking about today project planning, we are talking about teams building, we are talking about governance, you are going to learn that how to build your internal team and understanding evolving their new roles, their responsibilities and governance. And last but not the least, you will see that how you have been able to enhance your customers' experience, and the customers are delighted to actually go onto the omni-channel. So let's get started. So when we talk about success in any digital transformation project, we see that success actually can be attributed to three facets of your organizational goals. So the first is that how you have laid out as your corporate objectives. So that can be like attributed to your sales performance, like attributed to your marketing performance, your service performance, your enhanced customer experience. Now, when you come down to the tier two of your corporate ladder, you see that all of your product owners and the stakeholders, how do they view the success of this project, and how do they lay out the foundation of what they want to achieve out of this project. And those are defined as that we meet and we exceed their expectation of meeting their functional readiness, that we deliver to their expectation. And those are properly defined in terms of the KPI and the matrix. We ensure that there is a desired outcome, and we see from the perspective of that all those requirements are met properly. The last part is, since every project has a budget, constraint of timing and what needs to be achieved from the current state to the future state, we ensure as part of the success that it should be delivered on time, and it should be delivered within the budget which was specified. And last is the value is known, which is all set into the corporate goals as well as into the business stakeholders stuff. So having said that, how we are going to ensure that all of those three facets of our goals, stated at the different tiers, they are met. So we are going to talk in the following slides. So when we take a look at a corporate, any manufacturing or distributors or retailers, when they start embarking upon any digital transformation, especially in the commerce and marketing, it ties back clearly to their product portfolio, their merchandising, which they are selling. So it is all about that, business continuity. It's all about changing environments where the customers are now more proliferated, across different channels, so they would like to go across different geographical boundaries. And the corporate, they are looking for the means to increase their revenues. And then at the same time, operationally, not just the reduction of the cost, we are also here ensuring that, if along with the cost, there has to be not any kind of reduction in operational efficiencies, so we cannot just make sure that the cost is reduced, but at the same time, the efficiency of the operations are also in line with, so that, our customer is delighted with that. So when looking these corporate objectives into that, how do they tie up when we start working and start looking into any project, especially on a SAP Hybris commerce project, which does bring a lot more value in terms of that, how a customer ordering system can be put in place in ease, how the customer can actually go on look into their orders, look into browsing of the product, look into searching for a particular product. We start getting more and more insight into what the customer is looking for. We have much more capability in knowing that, some of the things which probably we have to tweak in terms of our fulfillment as well as into our supply chain management. So it is from end to end. So having said that, if we start looking into that, our corporate objectives were to actually increase the revenue growth, satisfy our customer and ensuring that they have a better user experience, as well as they get more value at every interaction of the transaction they have, from engagement all the way when we service our customers after they place the orders. So number one, order management visibility, developing a customer-centric view across all the channels. Part two is ensuring that customers are our vendors, are our suppliers, they actually can do business with us at ease. They actually find every capability over their digital platform, which they can service by themselves, or they can actually quickly find, where the help is. And then our customer service or any of the associated help can be offered immediately so that, their question can be answered. A third is making sure, because strategic partners as a customer now, when we look into that, it is not just that the customer is coming on our side, they are actually doing business with us. It actually also provides us a lot more information that where those customers are going during their quest for new products or during their quest for quality products, So if we create an ecosystem where not just being centric to, what's our channels which drives the sale, we also ensure that the customer, if they're going on their social media, if they're going on any other searches, we just want to capitalize on that data and we put those insights into our product development. So that's the reason, we shouldn't just treat our customers as customers. It is more like that they are the partners in our merchandise and product development as well. And the last is, the information fabric we are creating. So every interaction of the customer it need to be indeed qualified as a interaction which is value driven. So having said that, what does it mean when we have corporate goals, when we identified that we have business strategy in place, and how those corporate goals and business strategy, they actually promote into that. You can start looking into that, what organization do I have, and what are the new roles or the responsibility may evolve, as we start working on that. So in this slide, I have broken this down into a tactical goals, which is right at the bottom, and then slowly moving from a tactical to compliance goals to the business goals and all the way to very corporate and strategic organizations. So here, there are a lot of roles has been put in place, and that all depends on how big an organization is. For small businesses, there may be multiple roles which are being conducted by a single person. There may be so you can always see that one person can probably wear a hat of multiple roles. So this is just to give you an idea that when we are starting taking into consideration a project which dictates that we are going to have the commerce and the marketing in place, these are the roles which probably are going to be the focus for your direction moving forward. So when we see these roles, how does it actually dovetail back to that, how they are going to start looking from the perspective what they need to do, what they should not do, what are the areas. So the way we have devised is that we see that your whole ecosystem of the commerce, digital transformation for your e-commerce and the marketing, it can be grouped into these classified categories. So which can be called as topic themes. So most relevant topic themes, if you will start saying, okay, I'm going to place my, these roles and start grouping it, you will start realizing that, very, evident those topics are, site and searches, they are very critical. Personalization, when you are going to give any personalized experience for your B2B customer, what it's going to be, monitoring, merchandising, content management, promotions. And the third topic is all about checkout, account management, product pages, how you are going to tailor those requirements into these topics. So when I am talking about topic here, just do not get confused it with that in terms of just the functional side of it. You will also see that a lot of these topics are also being created, that how you will make sure that the best practices from the architecture perspective, just like there is architecture topic, what are the best practices you are going to lay down for your user experience, that is there. So now if you start seeing your organization in this topic, you may see probably that your compliance and architecture, and the security teams, they work together. It's under one umbrella. That's fine, But the most critical and the important thing is that all of the areas in which they need to focus on, they should be very well defined, and they should be catered to making sure that they have the adequate knowledge, or there has to be a plan so that your team actually come to that level and perform to be successful. So marketing here is one very important aspect of your insight when you start getting into going live and your post live experience. The more and more data which being created, we make sure that the data get analyzed, and then the data get converted into an analytical fashion so that we can properly engage them into future campaigns. We can engage them using and make sure that we revise our search engine optimization policies, and at the same time we also get the feed in terms of that how we are going to communicate back onto the social platform. So start looking into this. Then another very important part here I have seen in the B2B industry is the punch out. Most of the requisition systems till date, the companies, they use their personal systems where they want to fetch, your catalog information so that they can browse and search and find it out all the pricing and what's available, what's not available. And that catalog should go and integrate back to their requisition systems, and so that, they can actually order, and all of the catalog information, which they have been browsing through your means, and so they get back to and becomes part of their code and order, and so that those orders being raised in their own requisition system, they actually get converted and they get delivered to your platform. So this is also one of the area which a lot of your focus from the B2B industry has been laid out. So when we start looking into that now, how do you start map those roles? What I'm proposing here is that you should see your functional decomposition into these 4 levels. So starting from your value chain of the business, where you say what is the concept to product, what is the source to pay, we recommend that the next level of that give next level of micro-functional capability of your business value chain. So if you see from a concept to product development to product lifecycle management, and then within product lifecycle management, you see that what are the things which are very, very critical to maintain the lifecycle of the product. They are product management, classification, attribute management, internationalization, importing, exporting, mass edit. So all those things are at level 2. And then you have one more level where you see in terms of managing those entities which got impacted, particularly in this case is a product. So adding a product and deleting a product and those kind of things. So our roles and how they are going to map into the matrix of that what kind of ownership they are going to have, we can actually define those ownership at all these levels. So we can say we want to define at level 0 or level 1, level 2 or level 3. It all depends on how discrete and how micro responsibilities you want to assign to your organization and how they can take it further. So for example, here, if you see this RACI matrix, so from your level 2 all the way, we have defined that level 2 / into define new classification category and product. So there is a review board, business unit, technology group, digital, product management group. So now, one thing you will notice, and I will recommend that your topic themes, which I described in my earlier slide, so if you can have those topic themes also, being defined and mapped here, that gives you next level of visibility in the organization that, who is going to be responsible for this kind of functions. Okay, so let's move further. So this conclude all about how do you see that translating from corporate objectives to your business strategy goals, to all the way, how do you see your organization evolving into those functional aspects of your business strategy goals, and how you can see that, organization, whether big or small, but at what level of decomposition, level 0 all the way into the RACI matrix, so that you actually see from that perspective that, okay, these are the way I'm going to lay down my roles. This is the way I'm going to see my organization evolving. These are some of the things I need to do. This is probably something which they need moving forward. So now this part is all about planning and capability building. So now we have so everyone is talk about agility, everyone talks about iterative development, and we believe there is a lot of value in that. And we actually embrace all the Scrum and the agility into this methodology. There is a lot of information, but I will just give you at a high level the way this methodology has been put in place, which gives a lot of value when you start seeing that you have laid out the organization, you have actually some of the functional things which that these are going to go as part of my deliverable. So I will say that when you take a look at this methodology, at the approach, the one thing which is very critical is from the bottom up you go. So domain definition, these are the 5 domains which gives a lot more precipitation into that what kind of architecture model you need to do. As Kaisha was stating that in this 3-part series, today the focus is purely on this project governance and teams. But our next webinar, which is all about the architecture models, how those information model architecture, how your integration architecture, how your application architecture, solution architecture, all of those things we are going to talk about, that how we're going to integrate back to SAP CRM and SAP ECC, sync, async, those kind of things. But from methodology perspective, when we start from and see that this ties back to that on the left-hand side, all the technical advisory all the way up, and then we see from the IT architecture governance perspective, which you would have seen in my last slide when I was talking about the team building and all the roles and responsibilities, and then project lifecycle all at the top. So this gives very tight control of that what are all the moving pieces within the organization when we start executing a project, and how to ensure that they work in sync to actually get you the desired results. So the program structure from those, as I stated that, we are completely on agility and on Scrum. We have our iterations into 2+1. And when we have those iterations and moving into those iterations into minor releases to major releases, and how those iterations, they go back to here. So you will see here 3 views. One is right at the topic team, they are talking about nothing, but they are talking at the level of portfolio level, because product owners, they are working on those, so they have the priorities set. So when they have their priorities, so we create a backlog of their priorities, which we call, these are the product owners, these are the topic team priorities. So they go back and into the program backlog. Program is, where we pick up, those from the different topic teams, and then you can say, okay, so probably we can create this one. If search topic team says this one, which ties back to the product development page, and then since searching and PDP page, they both are impacting how we are going to eventually do a SEO. And so all of those things can become one program. So we actually create those epics, and then we put those backlogs into those epics, and then to the lowest level is at a iteration of 2 + 3 weeks. And then we take it further from there. So just wanted to give from the team and the program and the portfolio perspective, these are the 3 views which are going to be very, very helpful for you when you start looking at that, how to decompose your full-fledged requirements into the user story, and how you can take those user stories further. So moving to next is when we actually, this is this is something which can be very, very helpful if you are actually looking into a completely new implementation for SAP Hybris. And even if you are actually looking for a migration from, let's say, right now it's the 6.7, and you are on version 5, you go from version 5 to version 6. There are many, extensions. Many extensions has been obsolete, and many of them has been added to that. So this will give you a full-fledged that how you can actually see the stream of operations from the perspective of that what needs to be done in a logical fashion. There is a chronological order here. So if we do not follow this order, we are not going to see the right results. So from day one, that when we see what is important to us is that, we start with an accelerator of B2B accelerator. So that needs to be put in the development environment, and then we ensure along with that if there is any interaction with our, backend, whether it's a SAP or it is a ESB or it is a other flavor of ERP systems, or we have to maybe making some SaaS-based services call. So infrastructure, we just see that the dev can make those calls so that when the people start developing, they do not feel handicapped when the code is moved to the integration test, so that, those things are ready. So from your installation to UX UI, and the first and the foremost piece is you start looking into the catalog development. Actually, this is the heart of the system. When I see, I've been into this for more than 20 years, from many different platforms, ATG to IBM Commerce to all Magento, and nowadays SAP Hybris. I have seen that the catalog is always very centric to an organization's success. The better you model your product catalog, the more visibility it has to the customer, and customer will have more in terms of taking their decision to know that what your product actually offers. So that's so catalog modeling is very, very important. So catalog design, since every industry has its own set of attributes, so that's why this is very critical step, which must be taken right at the front. We start looking into media, how the media import export is going to work. Then we look into all about product information management import. We see WCMS, content catalog, homepage navigation. We talk about customers, users, email notification, a contract and service level, because this is actually contract and service level you will see more relevant into B2B scenarios where your pricing structure is based on a contract versus flat pricing, which is more relevant in the B2C scenarios. But again, since this has been laid out, which can cover both your B2B and B2C, but it gives you that what is coming one after another. You have to be very careful so that from day one, that this is something which I am looking for, and this is the way I'm going to scoping it. So moving forward, if we see from PLP, all that listing pages to all the way into pricing, text integration, into the data hub, or right now, most of the projects which we are looking are handling, they have all the async means by data hub, and then asynchronous calls goes directly. So that's one of the things, which you have to ensure that it's up and running, and you can actually make those calls, and you can actually fetch the information of your customers from your ERP and your CRM, and then populate into Hybris. You can send all of your orders back to your backend ERP so that they can go to the fulfillment. Next is all the Hybris orders to CRM, data hub, shopping mini cart, pay matrix integration, checkout, ASM, order history, all of those things. And if you see a down lane, the first lane give you that what it is in terms of that what are the different action items which eventually you will see in your epics and in your story writing. Underneath you will see that what you actually as a project owner you will test that part. So that's why that line, number one, test service, and number two, make sure that back office testing is there. You have catalogs in plus, you have all the products are in, you have all the categories are in, all the scripts, importing scripts, product media, all the solar searches are working perfectly, all those kind of things. So when you see number three, you see, okay, some of the, test companies and the customers, they have been populated since, we have already put we are looking that information so that all of our impacts and imports, they are there. And so that, we can start, moving forward on that part. We have all the category pages. we have all PLP, we have facet search, those are the things, along with all the deliverables at the top, you actually also ensure, which, I will talk a little bit about KPI, but see this in a very structured way. Even though a lot of time, your development, you will wrap your development in 90 days, but after, your user acceptance and also takes another 4 to 6 weeks. So by the time, you go live, it's around 4.5 to 5 months. But this 90 days is all about where 90% of the, grunt work happens, where the developers, QAs and your integration, infrastructure, DBAs, they are all involved. And this is what gives you a lot of control that, you do not let it go, and make sure, you see it on a day-to-day basis. So I was talking about our scope analysis. This is the domain which I think gives you very structured information in terms of, how you can, take this further. I have already spoken this into my other slides, but overall, looking into this actually laid out from the perspective from all the way from the product development, from the one supplier, a network, a management, to marketing, to sales and settlement, all the ways it goes from your order fulfillment, the return exchange, customer service compliance. So a 90-day plan, which actually was showing you that, take an example, I was saying part 2 is all the catalog development, and from the catalog, all the categories are there, classifications are there. So when I jump in here, I should start seeing from that perspective that is my catalog, which is product catalog, is my content catalog, which is all about my, pages, my templates, my email templates, how each page is going to interact and behave, all of those things, they are the same. So this gives you from the perspective which you actually start seeing where the gaps are. Maybe you have a system right now, maybe running on a legacy or a homegrown system. So this becomes as a basis, as I will show you in a few slides. So when you start actually looking into the gap analysis, so that we can clearly identify that the capability which we are looking at versus what we have and our future state, just keep this in mind, and you can actually start, if you see, I was talking about level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3 in my earlier slide when I created a RACI matrix. So this one, eventually, you can be viewed from that perspective as well. So now from the maturity matrix and the KPI perspective, these are the 3 things, we always define. Whether it is a KPI is defined. Now, since it is defined, we are managing that KPI. And then eventually, we have the chance to optimize it, because based on, where your current state is, you can be very strong. Let's say you are already at a level 5, which I will show you what does it mean. And so whenever there is a capability, building, we talk about any, functional requirements, just give it make sure that it's complete. It has a context of that. What does it mean from the customer context perspective? What is the information context is? What is who is going to be used, or who is going to be involved in this one? Business process, investment, building blocks. So all of this is very important, so that you see one digital capability from the perspective of when you are creating your matrix, because you really want something like this. So you see that we identified a user experience. This was in our topic team. They say, okay, our maturity right now, the current state is being shown here as an orange triangle. So the whole assessment gives you that, okay, it's very complex and inconsistent, and we want to make it, maybe in this project up to level 4 or 3, because reaching up to 5 may take, another 2 years. So that's where you're defined, you're managed, and you're optimized. So those are the 3 criteria we have put in place so that you can start seeing your metrics and the KPIs and how actually you are going to manage and monitor it from this perspective. This is an example of when you start defining that part. So when you take that part, so the heat maps give you from your journey, the top level is engaging to transact to fulfillment and the service. It actually, from the customer journey perspective, when we say engage, it's all about, we are talking about, marketing, we are talking about SEO, we are talking about, sending them some campaigns, we are talking about a lot so that, we are, giving them a perspective so that, we have a better offering than our competitors. So engaging is all about, showing our worth. So that's where the customer, they being approached. And when the customer, they start seeing that, okay, this is well, into my, into the perspective what I'm looking for, just like any industry, whether they say chemical industry or its industry, which are selling furniture versus an industry which is selling spectacles, So all of those optics and all that, they see that what is basically an engaging experience for the customers. So from engagement, when a customer moves to the transaction, this is where they actually are searching, browsing, and they are adding to the cart. And then fulfillment is all, when they actually, you can go and deliver the product and can actually have their, all the payment got settled and then services. But so here we have an opportunity where we see that our functional domain model and start looking into so that we can color code it from the 0 to 5, where 0 is incomplete, initial, repeatable. So these are the levels at an abstract level. So, and the one which I showed you in the earlier slide, which was very specific to a customer experience. And there you're talking about that how do I am defining these 5 levels of my maturity for this particular requirement. And here you are showing them as an abstract level so that you can score your maturity. So from here, if you take this, this pretty much conclude a chapter 2, which we covered in terms of methodology. We covered in terms of how do you see the matrix, and how should you see the project 90-day plan, and how you should start looking that plan in terms of that what you have versus where you want to go, so that you can create those KPIs and can monitor those KPIs on a consistent basis, so that you can see that this is the criteria of my success being defined. So I am actually at par or somewhere I'm lacking, so that I have to improve it. So from here, so this was the last slide. So what I will say is that if you see this, in any initiation of your this journey or a project, or initiation into your digital transformation in this space, always see it from the angle of that at the end, what a customer is going to get out of this effort. This is because they must, as I said, they are our strategic partners. If we must see and view each and every requirement from the perspective of, does it make it better in terms of our customer experience? So part 2, which is very critical, is that since you have now taken a step and you want to actually get better and better, I have seen organizations, those, they being a reference customer, started this journey 10 years back, and they are seeing growth every year somewhere around, initially it was 30%, now it is somewhere around 8 to 10%. They are capturing new geographical boundaries, and their footprint within their organization readiness, their teams are much more mature. Their teams know, from their topic perspective, I was saying, they know exactly, what is working, what is not working. So it is very, very critical that you also set that as a guideline that what new roles and what kind of training and what kind of mentoring is needed for your team so that, they are ready for this challenge and you can actually handle this job to entice your customers. And 90-day plan, which I showed you, again, since the 90 days is all MVP, I'm not here dictating or I'm not here suggesting that, everything may fit into that. But a lot of time when we go, we have seen, engagements going forever, sometimes takes a lot of time. So this 90-day plan, just it's a plan. You can have a 120 days plan, but the best part and the critical part, which was being subject to, that you see clearly that there is a path that what I am going to do on day 1, what I'm going to do on day 10 and day 15, so that when I reach to the finish line, what I get out of it. So that's very, very critical. And the last is, have a chance so that you have defined, measure, and monitor your KPIs, and just bring that in a culture, because now more and more organizations, they are having that as a services. So because if we're moving into where all of this are available, your organization using it, so they have actually starting doing within the organization a scoreboard, where topic teams, they come back and they actually have a monthly or quarterly kind of session where they all come together and show that how they are doing on the KPI. So I will highly suggest that a quarterly as an organization, you bring those teams together for a one-day session where they have this opportunity to share all those things, and so that you see that what's working, what is not working, and then you take it further. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Really appreciate it. And I give it back to Kaisha and Kevin. Kaisha, now we open up for question and answers. If there is anything you have, we can address in the next 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravi, for sharing such wonderful information with us. If you'll go to the next slide, that would be great. This is our official Q&A section of the webinar, and so we'll open it up for questions now. Oh, I see we have one in our Q&A box. Let's see. How do you promote team development and mentoring?
As I said, a team development and mentoring is very, very critical, if not for your current goals, even for the future. So look from the perspective of that, from the topic team, that you see that, any member or the team, where do they actually fit into the team, just like if are they part of your marketing goals, then you have to ensure that the team is actually well trained on SEOs, they understand how to do personalization, they are well aware of that what are the things, they should promoting this onto a social media as well as email marketing. The same way, when you see if your team is geared more into user experience design, and you see that that team actually have all the knowledge, attributed to, whether it's from the perspective of CSS, or it's HTML, or it is designing very specific user experience, which is which caters to your market. The same way is so the answer to this question is that first part of training your team is that you actually put your team member into one of those buckets. So once you have identified that this is the bucket, this is the topic, there is well-defined, courses, and if I can send you all of those things, as per the topics, what are the critical things which probably your team should learn. and you can actually take it from there. There are many courses, even from SAP Hybris, from the SAP side, they also have it. And also, we also can help you guys out.
Great. Thank you so much, Ravi. We have another question. Would you mind explaining the heat map approach with an example?
With an example is just when we go back to the heat map, take an example of that we are talking about, let's say a product display page, PDP page we call it. And that's where the page where we are actually showing all the information in terms of that, showing them on the left-hand side a product image. On the top, we show them, this is the price of the product is, then you show all the variants, whether it's the color or sizes and all that. So now you actually take that as part of that. We actually want to enhance our PDP page so that it can give more relevant information in terms of, so that the customer actually do not leave that page and go away. So now when I see that heat map perspective, let's say right now, you do not show customer reviews on your PDP page. So I will say that, we can say that's a yellow, because it's not green. And let's say, along with that, you actually do not show them, some videos or some images where they can actually see your page. So it again comes back to, as I was talking about, that the first step in our journey is to design a catalog. And when you design a catalog, you keep customer in mind, that what is critical to the customer, so that the customer actually, when you go on a PDP page, that customer actually have all the information available, whether it's a specification, whether it's the videos, whether it is my pricing information, whether it is all the different pricing, whether it's a promotion price, whether it is all the color variants, So overall, coming back to the heat map, so heat map gives you that, what level of effort is required to reach to a desired state, from level 0 all the way to 5.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I think we have time for possibly one more question. Another viewer asked, how does your team estimate or size user stories?
This is, so I recommend a sizing, story sizing in terms of, take it more like a shirt sizes, even though, Scrum, it has a point systems, then it becomes really sometimes very difficult for the teams to understand those points. So the way even though I'm not, an expert in this, part of a point system, but the way I have seen it, that, where I dictate is more is to start to see that as shirt sizes. It's a small, medium, large, and the extra large. So we have those story lined up into that, and then you can have those sizes of those shirts, and you can allocate those points. So the highest point, if it's an 8-point story versus a 2-point story versus a 4-point story. So this is the way it need to be scattered into those. So that's I think is working for many organizations, and I think it's very, very helpful.
I love that analogy. Thanks so much, Ravi. Okay, and the last question I think is, how do you refine or groom the product backlog?
The way it works is the grooming is all about, it's a recursive sessions, the way you have to go. So the best I will say is, which I've seen a lot of time, when we start going into those backlogs, I talking about the user story or the grooming part, is most of the organization, they do this as in isolation, in terms of like, they will just bring a business analyst and the project manager into the room, and then they will have not the full view of that. So the way I've seen is, that where it's going to help a lot is that always, all the topic teams, their lead should be there when you are grooming those stories or when you are actually handling any of the backlog, so that none of the questions should go unanswered or into the email trails when you leave the room. And so that's where the structuring of your 90-day plan, and then how you go into the meeting, and how are all the owners, they are available whenever you are having any discussion on these critical issues, and then you resolve it once you are out of that meeting.
Perfect. Okay. I think that's all the time we have for questions right now. I did want to take a few minutes to thank everyone for joining us today, and to remind you to be on the lookout for the parts 2 and 3 of our webinar series on the successful C4HANA implementation. The part 2 of the series will cover, as Ravi said, architecture and building blocks, and the key takeaways will be, we'll actually view architecture models, supporting information, application, integration, and data. We'll look at synchronous calls to SAP CRM, and then asynchronous calls through Data Hub. And then part 3 will cover development and operations. So we look forward to you joining us in the future. Thank you again. You guys have been an amazing audience. And as I said, we will be sending a recording of the webinar out in the next few days. If you have any further questions, Ravi, if you'll go to the next slide, then that way they can see your contact information. You may also email Ravi or go to our website, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.